Hello, everyone. So this is my new YouTube Twitch channel, and it's called The Deliberate Army. And the reason it's called that is because one of my mantras is the Henry David Thoreau's quote, how he from his book Walden. That's kind of his signature work, and he states in that how he wants to live deliberately. And the point of this channel is to help others find solace, to find a way to live that way, a way to live the way you want, in spite of the system, right? And well, I have a little PowerPoint. Let me just walk right into it. Okay. So yeah, our first assumption, what is the Deliberate Army? The system is against us, right? I think it doesn't matter what country you're in. You could be in France, China, especially the United States, but I think the sentiment is pretty much worldwide that governments don't really care about what we want. They don't care about improving our lives. They're really just self-serving. And yeah, the system is really meant to just control us and not to improve our lives. The other thing the system is really meant to do is to keep us distracted and to keep us divided, to keep us arguing amongst ourselves. And they don't really care about principles or the powers that be, the oligarchy, whatever you want to call it, the deep state. They don't care about principles. All they care about is power. And in order to fortify that power, they keep us fighting amongst each other, fighting amongst ourselves, and to keep us distracted. And well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So in order for us to rise above this situation, my solution is, well, two things. One, we need to think with our human brain and not our lizard brain. So a lot of people don't know what this is, but if you could break your brain down into two basic functions, your brain, we're going to oversimplify the human brain, and you have your lizard brain, which is your very basic functions, right? It's your I need to breathe, I need to swallow, I need to keep my heart beating, I need to survive. Your lizard brain is there just to kind of keep you alive for the next moment, right? So whenever you're afraid, whenever you're stressed, you're anxious, your lizard brain kicks in, okay? And it's located at the base of your neck, or your base of your head, by your neck, right? So people are not even really able to think higher, complex thoughts. You're not even able to think about nuance if your lizard brain is kicking in. Okay? So again, that's another mechanism of control. Anytime somebody is trying to make you feel scared, anxious, they're trying to speak to your lizard brain. Okay? So here at the Deliberate Army, we are going to think with our human brain, right? Our human brain, you can really only use it when you're relaxed, when you're calm, and you feel safe. Okay? But that's where you have your higher level complex thoughts, okay? Shakespeare poetry, Homer. You can't understand these books, these concepts, if your lizard brain is active, okay? So we're, as much as possible, we're not gonna operate in your lizard brain, in our lizard brain. We're gonna operate in our human brain, okay? And I'm not gonna chase whatever is the hot story of the moment, whatever is the next drama. Whoever's beefing with who, I don't really care about that. Right? I care about spending time in our human brain, and let's have a nuanced, complex discussion. Okay, the second way that we are going to accomplish our goals of living a fulfilled life, a happy life, is we're gonna do the 1% method. We're gonna employ the 1% method, and all that means is, have you ever heard this old African saying, how do you eat an elephant? How does one eat an elephant, right? This is the task ahead of us, to live a happy, fulfilled life in spite of the system. How does one eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So it's just that simple. We're going to have to take it little by little. And what I mean by the 1% method is every day I made a goal. I promised myself I am going to be a little bit stronger, 1% stronger, 1% healthier, 1% smarter, 1% more spiritual, whatever your religion is. So that's what I'm going to be preaching. That's what I'm going to be helping people do. Um, I talk to a lot of people, and they're really, they really feel down. They feel hopeless, right? Um, in Walden, there's another famous quote. He said, "Most men live out their lives in quiet desperation." So I think a lot of people feel that way. And when I talk to people, a lot of times they're down on themselves. They feel like they're the problem, and maybe that's partly true. But if you spend your days with 100 stupid things, like if you on average do 100 stupid things a day, my advice, my solution to this is tomorrow, do one positive thing that makes you stronger. Could be do 5 minutes of push-ups, do some squats. Could be go take a walk. Could be call your mother. Could be read a book. I don't know. Join a gym. Just do one thing. And then tomorrow, the next day, or sorry, the day after that, you're going to do two things. Okay? So remember, you're doing 100 stupid things, and now 2 days from now, you're doing two healthy things. And then the next day, you're going to do 3, 4, 5. You get my point. And then months from now, those 100 stupid things, well, you don't even have time for those stupid things, right? Because you're filling your days with things that are making you stronger, things that are making you healthier, things that are making you smarter every day. So that's the primary focus of this channel. And then the last bullet point is, it doesn't really matter where you come from. So, yeah, the last bullet point I would say is, as long as you're like-minded, you're a kindred spirit, you agree with what I'm saying. I have a lot of views that are, I think I'm mostly a left-wing guy, but I have a lot of right-wing views. When I talk to people, most people agree with 90% of what I say, right? I think at the end of the day, we all kind of want the same things. It's the system, it's the oligarchy, the deep state, the man. They don't, right? They don't want what's best for us. So yeah, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is, you have more in common with whoever I'm pointing at. You have more in common with an immigrant who's desperate coming over here to the United States. You have more in common with him than you do with Jeff Bezos or Donald Trump or Elon Musk, or pick a billionaire. You have much more in common with them. If you're a right-winger, you have much more in common with the average Marxist than these billionaires. You have much more in common with, just pick. If you're a flaming lefty, whatever your gender preference, you have much more in common with a guy barely trying to make his business work and keep food on the table, and that's a Trump voter. Okay, so yeah, the idea that America is divided. Yes, it is very divided, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be, and that's a divided people, a scared people, they're easy to control. But a united people, an intelligent people, are not easy to control. So that's the thrust. That's the idea of this channel. What I've been thinking about a lot is, if you're going to leave your mark on this world, you can't stay in your comfort zone. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to put in the work. So that's what I'm doing here. Myself, I'm very introverted. I don't really like, bringing attention to myself, but I think, this is needed. I think this is needed. I think a lot of people they do feel that quiet desperation, and I don't think you have to. And I've been there. I've had a lot of low points in my life, but yeah, we don't have to have. We can live better. All right. So deliberately, that's the big word. It's kind of my mantra. So I figured I'd put the definition up. So consciously and intentionally on purpose, right? So many of us we just kind of go through the motions throughout the day. We just kind of sail through, let our boss or our spouse, dictate our lives. You know, I have to warn everyone. I'm very critical of capitalism. If you're pro capitalism, you need to be at least aware of the deficiencies of capitalism. If you're anti-capitalism, well, with any solution, you need to um, you need to be aware. I'm digressing. Okay, let's start from scratch. All right. So yeah, cut that. Um, okay, so deliberately, the definition of deliberately. Let's talk about that. So we live consciously and intentionally and on purpose. And I like The second definition is in a careful and unhurried way. In a careful and unhurried way. So I think both definitions apply here. And so many of us, we just kind of go through the motions. We don't live with purpose. We don't live with intention. We're pushed around. Could be your job. Could be materialism. Could be your spouse, your parents. We're all pushed in many different directions, pulled, and we want to cut that out. Right? We don't want to live that way anymore. Okay. So here's the main quote from the book, and let me read it. I'm going to read it straight through, and then I'm going to break down sentence by sentence. So, okay, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and to see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a board swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. And if it proved to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meaningness of it and publish its meaningness to the world? Or if it were sublime, to know it by experience and be able to give a true account in my next excursion. So let me break down each idea, because this is a very, in my opinion, this is a very heavy, meaty paragraph, right? So the crux of the book is he basically goes to the middle of the woods, Walden Pond, and he builds a little house for himself. And he did this, because this is why. Because he wanted to live. He wanted to find the meaning of life. He wanted to find what life really was about. And so just the idea of getting away from everything, right? He stripped life down to its bare essentials, right? And in the book he says that people thought he was weird. Like, what are you, crazy? What are you going to do for money? How are you going to live, right? And this is in the 1800s. I forget exactly. I think 1840, 1850s time frame. So yeah, think about in your own life, what can you cut out? How can you, in small ways, I'm not suggesting everybody does this, right? Everybody goes live out in the woods, although kind of sounds kind of cool. I'm not discouraging people from doing it, but I'm not encouraging everyone. But the idea of strip away what is not important, right? Think of in your own life. How often do you spend hours and hours just on meaningless BS tasks, right? Pursuing things that are just fruitless, pursuing things that are never going to give you any payback in your life, right? And that's different for everybody, right? Everyone has to find what's really important to them. Okay, so that's the first idea. So, yes, he went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and to see if I could not learn what it had to teach. So he's open, right? I run into a lot of people they're not really open to learn. They're not really open to grow, and those type of people, I don't, I'm not going to invest a lot of time trying to convince them or share a lot of ideas with them, right? I still love them, but they're not at a place where they want to grow, right? But he was Thoreau was at a point where, he wants the universe to speak to him, and let's get all the noise, all the distractions out of the way, and to see if I could learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. That line gets me every time, right? Because how many people live their entire life? They're in their 60s or 70s or 80s, and they're like, "Oh shit, my life is over, and I'm gonna die. Maybe a year, 5, 10 years from now." And I hadn't lived, right? I wasted my life on silly pursuits, on being controlled by people around me. That I think is a scary thought to me, and I fight every day that doesn't happen to me in my life. Okay, I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. Okay, so he's kind of reiterating what I already said, just saying it in a different way. But yeah, again, most men live out their lives in quiet desperation, and I felt that way a good portion of my life. I don't feel that way anymore, and I'm hoping other people, if one person, if I help one person, then maybe this YouTube channel or this Twitch stream is worth it. Okay. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. So this line also gives me chills. So bone marrow that's where your stem cells are created, your red blood cells. That is like the most raw, purest form of life is your bone marrow. Okay. So again, we want to get to that. What is really important, right? Is it, for some people, I just want to golf all day, go fishing. You don't need to live in modern society to do that. You don't need to be controlled by your phone 12 hours a day to go fishing and hiking or whatever's your pleasure, right? If it's just hanging out with your kids. I mean, there was many years I just wanted to hang out with my kids, and that's really all that was important to me. So finding what is your marrow, what is really important to you, and just focus on that. That's really what we all need to do. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live sturdy and Spartan-like, as to put to rout all that was not life. So that's kind of reiterating the same thing. To cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. So again, we want to reduce things down to its purest, rawest form, right? What is really important to people in their life? Let's really understand that and cut out all the waste. A quote that I've heard that's been sticking with me in the recent years is, you can please the people around you, or you can please yourself, but you can't do both. Well, myself, I'm choosing to please myself, and I don't encourage hedonism or narcissism, but I this is just my personal wisdom. My personal approach is I try to make everything better around me. If it's my house, the room I'm in, if it's the relationship, if I'm talking with somebody, a friend, I'm always trying to make everything around me better, and maybe to me that's what the marrow of life is. All right. Let me pick, where was my spot? Find my spot. And if proven to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world? Okay, so he's saying if life sucks, let's tell people, yeah, we're all here fruitlessly. He's saying if. But if it was sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it in my next excursion. So he's saying, yeah, if I find that life is sublime with this is an experiment that he's running, right? He's running an experiment, and he's saying, well, I'm going to publish the findings. I'm going to tell people, this is what I found. And if life sucks, I'm going to tell people that. And if life can be a beautiful, magical, wonderful, sublime thing, yeah, I'm gonna tell people about it. I'm gonna be honest. Okay. So that's our channel in a nutshell. If you like this message, if you agree with it, please like and subscribe. Please check out the links below. Drop an email, a comment. I want to interact with people. I want to make friends, connections. The more connected we are to the world around us, the healthier we are. Okay? And so, yeah, I want this for everybody. All right.